Welcome to our video bulletin for Friday the 30th of April. We're powering into the spring now. The sun is out all over the place and we can enjoy the summer ahead. Many of you will already have been out sampling the opportunities of the easing of lockdown and sitting outside at pubs or restaurants. So let's keep enjoying that, and as the summer goes on we'll be able to socialise with each other even more. I hope as well to be able to announce very soon the appointment of a new associate priest at St Nick's. So that announcement will follow as soon as I am able, as we look towards the staffing of the clergy team for the coming few years. As you know, we've also got Jenny Brady joining us as assistant curate at the end of June. There is, as ever, an awful lot happening. Those of you who were part of the Lent group in March will already know that you're looking for a date to convert a Lent group into a study group outside of Lenten times. If any of you would like to be part of that, even if you weren't part of the Lent group, please just contact Ian, our parish assistant. And some of you also will have noticed my deliberate error in the e-bulletin on Wednesday when I got the date of Sunday the 23rd of May incorrect. The 23rd of May is when we're going to have a bespoke tour from Lawrence Westcott looking at the impact of the trade in transatlantic trade in enslaved Africans on the church and the city around us. So Lawrence has said that he'd love to do one just for us, and many of you have signalled an interest, so we've set that time for 2:30 on Sunday the 23rd of May. Please do contact the parish office as soon as possible to confirm that you would like to be part of that tour. Getting around the city, learning about our environment, watching the way that the cityscape changes has been endlessly fascinating as the Strand has been dug up. And by the time we get to the weekend, some of the latest disruption should have come to an end, as the southbound carriageway should have been resurfaced, and we've just got to hang on now for what happens to the northbound carriageway. But whatever happens, the church is still accessible in the usual ways, and we can still get to the Liver Building car park on Sunday mornings. So please do hang on in there with all the changes around us. For those of us who drive in every day, I can tell you it's worse for me than it is for you. So it is something we're just having to live with. Someone else who's living with that is Peter Woods, whom Ian's been catching up with this week. Peter, as well as serving the church in a number of varieties over the year, is our buildings manager and does an awful lot to keep the place around me, the pillars and woodwork around me at the moment, in good order.
Hi everyone, and welcome to the Meet the Congregation video for this week. I'm here with a really important member of the congregation, Peter. Hi Peter, how are you?
Yeah, good afternoon, Ian.
It's lovely to talk to you. Peter, you have a very important role in the church. Can you talk about what that role is?
Well, basically, I volunteered to be the building manager, but since then I obviously had a problem because I stopped taking the medication when I volunteered. But basically, it's overall looking at taking care of the building, anything to do with the building, that's the utilities, the building itself, the walls outside, the insurance, things like that. So it all comes under my remit. It was under my remit as the church warden, but when I finished as church warden, I thought I was getting out of the job, but I didn't. I carried on as a building manager. But the church is in good condition, and it's an enjoyable job. And the other job I do have as well is I've got a responsibility to Walton Park Cemetery. That also comes under the building manager.
And that's the job probably you like a little bit less than the other.
Well, it's interesting up there. We've had things with graves we've found, and graves that shouldn't have been there, on the walls that fell apart because people have built walls on top of coffins, which is not very good.
Oh no.
And the history of the place as well, which is great. We've found out so much over the last 10, 15 years, particularly finding old records in the safe and getting that. And it's also finding out things about the church itself in the boiler room, where we've got medieval masonry, which is interesting.
Yeah.
And other parts of the church I often wonder when I look at the photographs of the Blitz Memorial at the moment, the Blitz and the Narthex, when you look at the church, there were all sorts of beautiful plaques and commemorative statues there and things like that. What happened to them all? And I keep thinking, are they all, it's more or less just buried underneath the church at the moment? Because during the war, would they have kept it or took them away? Because we've got very few memorials in the church. And of course, we're not allowed to put any more in the main body of the church itself anyway.
Mm-hmm.
But the church itself is in pretty good condition. And even looking back through some of the history, when one of the rectors, Rector Gray, Donald Gray, wanted a new rectory, which was going to be in the churchyard.
Oh my God.
The plans are absolutely fantastic.
Huh.
It would have cost an arm and a leg to do it. And unfortunately, they also found out, of course, that in the churchyard, we got 3 plague pits. And where he wanted his rectory to be done was going to be in the plague pit. So it looked good. The plans are all there. So if you ever have a chance, have a look at it. They're well worth looking at.
Yeah, I was about to say, if walls on coffins is wrong in Walton Park Cemetery, the rectory in the gardens is probably a disaster waiting to happen.
Well, originally the plan there was, the wall that looks out onto the Strand, there would have been windows in that wall.
Oh, wow.
That he would be looking out onto the Strand.
Huh.
Yeah, fantastic building, library and all sorts, but I hate to think what it would have cost.
Fascinating. Well, you're a very good steward of the buildings. We're very lucky to have you. And how this year otherwise? I mean, it's been a bit intense, but we're now finally getting closer to freedom. So,
well, I think it's still carrying on with jobs for the church, but with the church being shut down, the one thing I have found, of course, is that if I'm going into church for the day to do jobs, it's very nice if you're on your own. You've got the office to myself as well, as you probably would have yourself, and it's nice to get all the jobs done. But we're well ahead on the work at the moment. We've got some more work to come in soon. The stonework's got to be done. But all in all, the building's in really good condition.
Nice. Yeah, and how are you? How's the year treating you? All good? Anything to report?
Well, it's treating good. I'll be back out into the garden when we finish this. Basically, keeping in the house, doing things. I'm up to date. I also still do part-time work as a chief examiner for super yacht examinations. So that keeps me busy with exam papers, setting them and marking them. And both of us have found it's great. We've got a park which is 2 minutes walk from our house, Collistones Park. So it's nice to get out and walk as well.
Oh, it's lovely. Sounds
and
lovely.
People say to me, don't you worry about being shut in? Well, basically, I spent nearly all my life on a floating tin can like this thing. And you can't get much more shut in than that, even if you have got a crew.
There you go. And how'd you start coming to St. Nick's? I suspect the maritime connection is part of that.
Well, it was a maritime connection. Where I live at the moment, we used to go to All Hallows Church, which is just up the road from me in Cobblestones. But prior to that, as it turned out, I was actually brought up as a Catholic, Roman Catholic. So I've been head altar boy, MC, all the rest of it. Then I went away to sea. And then we ended up at All Hallows. And then my youngest daughter decided she wanted to get married at the Sailors' Church. So I decided to ring up, and Nick Frayling was the rector at the time. So I rang Nick Frayling to see what I had to do. Unfortunately, got a frosty response because I called him vicar, which he isn't and wasn't. He was the rector. So Joy and I came along and we started going together to the church. We did our 6 months. And then Louise got married. And then she and her husband moved to Derbyshire. So since then, we've been going now for about, 22, 23 years to St. Nick's. And we've carried on doing that.
Amazing. We wrote...
And even things changed. But as church warden, somebody said, well, how long have you been in the Church of England? So I explained that I hadn't been in the Church of England to start with. So I had to take a special oath to become a church warden. Stephen Brooks kept saying to me, do you want to be church warden? I said, nope, can't. Sorry, can't do it. So I had to affirm in front of two other witnesses. So he got me in as church warden through the back door.
Well, we're very lucky to have you. It's lovely to talk to you, Peter. That's probably all the time we have.
Okay, that's great. Nice talking to you, Ian. And you enjoy the rest of your day.
See you soon.
Bye.
Well, on Sunday we have a welcome return to choral evensong. We didn't have much in the way of evensong last year for obvious reasons. We had one on the 4th of January and then we went into lockdown again. But here we are on the 2nd of May, we're able to start again. So in the morning we will have the parish Eucharist at 10 o'clock. Please do come along to it if you can. It's been a place of joy for the last few weeks as so many people have been able to join the worship. But in the evening we'll be back at 6 o'clock with choral evensong with St Nicholas Singers. Our guest preacher will be Father Louis Johnson. Louis, of course, came from our congregation towards ordination. He then spent 3 years as our parish assistant before going off to be a curate in the St Luke in the city team. We never got to say goodbye to him properly. There are still issues that we can't say goodbye in a properly undistanced way, but we can at least have him back in our midst, and we look forward to him preaching on Sunday night. So please do join us at 10 o'clock for the parish Eucharist, at 6 o'clock for choral evensong, and whatever you're doing in the intervening time, have a very good weekend.